Hey guys, my name is Jack, and I'm currently a senior at Miramani High School in Orinda, and I'm here to go over a game called Code Combat that is part of Code.org's Hour of Code. So just to start off with a little bit about myself, I've taken a couple computer science courses in high school, and I primarily focused on JavaScript and Python. And Python's actually what we're going to be working on today. That's what the language of this game is. So that works out very well. So let's just get right into it. So in your Google search bar, type hour of code and just click on the first link. It should bring you to this page and you just hit try it. Next, you'll see all the games. These are the beginner ones, so you want to go to comfortable and scroll down until you find this game called Code Combat. This is the image right here, and then you just hit start. And if you can't find this game for any reason, you can always type this link into your search bar at the top. So just click start. And it'll bring you to this page. Click I'm a student and start. Get the game open, let's go on the first level. As you can see, there are 10 levels, and we'll start with this one on the very bottom left with the arrow pointing at it. So just click on it and hit play. So for this one, you don't have to write any code. You just look at the code they already wrote and play the game. So you can read this. It's just basically saying what I went over. So click start level and read these announcements. I'll skip them though. So looking at this code, so on the top right, it says that this coding language is Python, which I already said. And so I'll just go over this code for a quick second. So all these blue lines, they're comments. If you put a hashtag on a line in Python, the computer won't read it, and it'll realize that that line is a comment and is only meant for humans when they're looking at the code. Comments are extremely important, especially when you get to higher level coding. If you do it in high school, college, or even your job, you need an extraordinary amount of comments to make sure you know what every part of code is. And also, if someone else is trying to look at your code, they can more easily understand every aspect of it. So all these are comments, and the first line of code is on line 8 that says game.spawnFloor desert. So using this bank, we can analyze what each method is. So click on spawnFloor, and it'll explain what spawnFloor does and the different options you have for that. So, as it says, I can replace the floor with anything. Instead of having a desert, I could have a glacier. And once that updates, you'll see that it's not yellow anymore. It's a blue glacier on the floor. And you can change that to any 4 of those options that they have in that method. You can make it a mountain, or you can make it a desert. Or, the forest. This is what the forest looks like. Okay, so, and then you can do the exact same thing with all of those 3 other methods. One thing is, this game is a bit glitchy sometimes, and you sometimes have to press enter in order for it to refresh. But just delete the space. Try to keep your code nice and clean. So those are the only methods I'll go over for right now. These other ones, we'll look at them in other activities. But so the first one spawns a floor, and then they spawn the right border, which is this. You can make that green like a forest or blue like a glacier, the left border and the top border. So now that we looked at the code and the comments, you can just hit play and try to destroy all the robots. You destroy them by pressing A and D to move the paddle. So we won the level, and then just click continue. With the first level, let's move on to the second, which is called Boulder Pusher, and right up here. So click play. So in this level, we're actually going to start writing some code, and we're going to start with the method spawnXY, which takes any object of your choice that's already in the game and spawns it at the coordinates x, y. So click start level. So these arrows point to where you have to write the code, and the comments kind of explain what you have to do. So reading this code. So this right here is we went over last time. The spawn floor, spawn maze. It's very similar stuff. And these numbers right here are just the seeding, which changes the images, and they're not much of a worry at all. So here's the first spawn XY comment. And as you can see, it has one string. A string is any letters surrounded by by quotation marks. Sorry, I just had a mind blank. By quotation marks, and it's often a word, or it can be anything. It can have numbers, it can have punctuation, it can have anything as long as they're in between the quotation marks. And there are these two other numbers, but we don't really know what they do. So let's look at this spawn XY, and it'll explain it all. So, as I said, the first one is a string, and that's a type of object you want to build. And these are the two numbers are the X and Y coordinates. So now we know everything there is to know about the method. So here it wants us to add a gem at coordinates 60 and 36. So that's quite simple. You just type in game.spawn XY, and then what object are we trying to build? We're trying to build a gem. So just like above in these two lines, you write gem and make sure they're quotation marks and make sure they're closed. And then you have to put a comma separating the three items that are part of this method. You gem, the first number is the X coordinate, as it says over here. So, and the X coordinate is 60. So you type 60 and 36. The spaces don't matter. And as we can check, if we close that, the gem is spawned. So now what we do is hover over the map and find a coordinate you want to put the gem at. So you can put this anywhere, it doesn't matter. You just hover over the map and it will tell you the coordinates where your cursor are at. So my cursor right now is at X57, Y29. So that's what we'll use for our second gem, but you can use anything. You can find your own coordinate. You can retype it, or you can just copy paste the same one and just change the coordinates. 5629. As you can see, a gem spawned right there. So now we have the two gems spawned. There are no other directions, so we hit play. And I'll move my video over here. So now we are this character, and using WASD, we move around, we push these boulders, and we try to pick up all the gems. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So now we got all the gems. We're done with the level. And hit continue. And we'll hop right back in to level 3, which is block pusher. So here, level 3 is loading, and here's our goal, and it's just kind of explaining what strings are, and I already kind of did that. They're just letters, numbers, or punctuation marks. They're in between quotation marks, and they're an extremely important type of data. So we'll just hit start level, and there's not much to write in this level. There's just 2 lines of code you can edit in there by the arrows. So first, they want us to try to... I already kind of explained spawn floor, and it's the exact same thing I did earlier. You can change this. And looking at the spawn floor method, there are 4 options. The floor can be a forest, a desert, a mountain, or a glacier. So we'll try desert. I think that'll look nice. And as you can see, the floor of the game changes. It just took a minute, but it changed to a yellow desert-like floor. And the next line, they want us to change the color of the maze, or the type of maze, and that does not have the exact same options. Instead of the 4 options, there are only 2. They can be forest or clump. For example, if I try to type glacier, which is not a valid option, it will give me this warning message saying it's an invalid string. So I'll just go back to that line, no worries, and I'll change it to clump, which, as you can see, is more brown leaves. And this seeding number is pretty important. It changes it changes how the maze looks through their random generator. So if I put this, let me close that. So if I change that to a 9, let's say, you see how the maze changes. 11, it changed as well. You can kind of play around with that. But a lot of these seeds you won't actually be able to win the game. There'll be a problem. And I ran into that actually earlier. I changed the seed and I wasn't able to win the game. So we'll go back to the original seed, which was 8, I think. So that looks right. All these methods, we kind of went over these. Spawn XY, we learned that last level. But here, instead of gems, they're spawning stone blocks. And again, they're using the XY coordinates at the end of the method. Here, they're spawning gems, and we did the exact same thing earlier. So we'll just hit play, and we got to collect all the gems. Let me move my camera. And as always, use WASD to move around and collect all the gems. See if you can do it fast. But there we go. So 4 gems. The level should end right about now. And then just hit continue, and we'll move on to the next level. Now, let's move on to level 4, called Pasture Guards. So just hit play and wait for it to load. So here, the goal is to learn about properties, and we're going to configure max speed for heroes and robots. So that might not make a lot of sense right now, but it will very shortly. So first, let's hit start level as usual, and look at where they want us to edit the code. So we can see that this problem is going to use the method setProperty_for. It's a bit above here, and it's above here, and we can see that there are 3 strings that are part of this setProperty_for. So we can have a general idea of how many data points we're going to need for that method. So, but we can look deeper into the method in this list, setProperty_for right here. So here, there are actually 2 strings and one number. So that we'll probably end up using that. Okay. So let's look at the first line on line 30. First, for the raider, set a speed between 1 and 80. So using our knowledge from this table right here and the methods above, we can do that quite easily. So we can just copy the syntax from over here. Game.setProperty_for. You can just hit tab and it'll autocomplete. So it autocompletes to this, but this is not what we want. Well, actually it can be. So it sets the raider. As we can see, the raider, they want us to talk about the raider. And here we're setting the property for the raider. And we're changing the speed. And we're setting it to 20, which is between 1 and 80. So that works. Okay. So now let's do the next line, but we'll type it this time. So now we're doing the speed of the RoboBomb. So we'll do game.setProperty_for. And then the first is a string, and that's the object that we're changing. So instead of the raider, it's a RoboBomb. RoboBomb. I'll always make sure to close the string. Put the comma. And now the second item is a variable we're changing, and this is speed again. So it's the exact same thing, speed. And then finally, we're doing a number between 1 and 80, and here we can make it 50. We don't really know what these do yet. I mean, we can have a general idea. It would probably change the speed of the RoboBomb and the speed of the raider, but we'll see how that goes. So now that our code is done, I'll close that table, and we'll play the game. So the goal of this game is to stay alive. Oh, so here we died right away. So in there, we know there's a problem. And that's fine, because coding is all about making mistakes and trying to fix them and trying to improve on your code. So what happened was the RoboBombs killed us too fast. So apparently they were too fast. So here we can change their speed to, let's say 5, to make it not extremely slow. We'll change it to 5. And then here, so the RoboBombs are in green, and they're chasing me as I try to collect all the diamonds. So this is about the right speed. You can play with it. You can make it harder for yourself. You can make it easier for yourself. Whatever. Just don't let the RoboBombs touch you. So now that I collected all the gems, the level is over. And on to the next one, just like that. So now let's hop into the next level, titled Pointless Robots. So as usual, hit the green play button and wait for it to load. So it looks like in this problem, we're going to be using the methods spawn decorations and spawn randomly. Both methods, and I don't think we've seen yet. So again, just hit start level, and the blue box will tell us the exact same thing. We're going to be using the method spawn decorations and spawn randomly. So we don't need that anymore. And let's just hop right into the code. So it looks like the first line they want us to work on is right here on line 18, and they want us to use the method spawn decorations. So it's useful to look up in the code, and here we can see they use spawn decorations on line 15, and here they used spawn desert. And looking at the game on the left, we can see that that line most likely spawned in these trees that are around the map, and maybe some of these other rock formations. They look like rocks. So let's try forest or glacier. So as always, just copy down the syntax from above. So spawn decorations, but instead of desert, we're going to try forest. As you can see, it spawned in these leaves and these rocks and this hut and these two huts over there. And then we'll try and see what glacier looks like, just so we can see both. And that spawns the igloo and some icicles. Okay, so now that we have that out of the way, I'll stick with the glaciers. I think they look nice. We'll go over to the method spawn randomly. Here the method is used game.spawn randomly robobomb and then 10. So as the comments tell us, the first string is the object that you want to spawn. So in this case, it's a robobomb, and this is how many you want to spawn randomly across the game. So we're going to type game.spawn, randomly. But instead of robobomb this time, we're going to want to type what we want to spawn, which is the cows. So cow, comma, and then how many we want. We can do, let's do 12. And as you can see, there's 12 cows that spawn randomly across the game. So next, the code is spawning a hero, Goliath, which is this guy right here, and the x and giving us the x and y coordinates of him. So if I clicked on the map right here, it would be, for some reason the coordinates aren't showing up. Oh, right there, 41, 36, 38. But so yeah, those are the x and y coordinates for the Goliath. And then, so the next line of code, they want us to set the speed for the Goliath, and we already did a similar thing in set property 4 a couple problems ago, but we can do it again. So as always, just type game set property 4, and then the first string is the object that you want to alter or set the property for, and in this case it's the Goliath. And then the property we want to change is speed, as it says in the comment on line 33. So we'll do speed, and we'll set it to, since the robobombs are 5, I want to be a bit faster than the robobombs, so I'll do 15. So it looks like all the code worked out, and we're done. So now we can play the game and try to survive for 15 seconds. Just hit continue and play. First, I'll move over here and hit play. As always, use WASD to move. And we gotta run away from these robobombs that are just moving around the map randomly. So this game is pretty easy. You can always, as usual, make it harder or easier on yourself. Increase the speed of the robobombs, decrease your speed, or vice versa. And then there we see I survived 15 seconds. We won the level. And on to the next one. Move on to level 6, which is called Running Bubbles, and is right here at the bottom with the arrow right above. So just hit play and wait for it to load as usual. And so this problem goes over 2 new concepts. One is an event, and one is handlers. And events are basically anything. They're usually user inputs, and there's a wide range of events that exist, and they can be anything from when the game starts, when you click, when 2 objects collide, and generally in code you write when such and such event happens, do such and such. And then handlers, they're basically tied to events and basically state that whenever an event happens, the handler will start executing and will start running through the methods that are part of the handler. But for right now, we don't need to worry too much about the handlers because they're already pre-written in the code. So we're just going to be using the handlers that code.org already wrote. And for the events, we're mainly going to be using the click event. So just hit start level. It seems like I'll just delete that M right there. So starting at the top of the code, these two lines just spawn the floor and decorations. It's pretty basic. We've seen this a couple times already. And you can always change these mountains to forests, glaciers, or deserts, and just to customize your games a bit, but they don't really matter at all. So these lines they start the generators which spawn these robots. Although you can't really see them because this property, they have this line on line 12, game.setProperty for generator, and they set their visibility to false, so they're not visible and you won't be able to see them, but they are spawning the bots and affecting their properties. So down here we'll see the line of code is our first on input. And this line states that once you click on an object, the handler will defeat that object and just destroy it and make it invisible. So now that we know that, we can start writing our own code using on input. And just for your information, the game.onInput, it will be, if you want to look more in that method, it will be over here. But the handler is in this category right here. And right now we only have two handlers, add score and defeat other. And this is what the defeat other looks like. Okay, so let's look at this line of code we have to write. So they want our event to be click, and they want our handler to be add score, which is right here. And they want us to subtract a score. So what they're basically saying is every time the user clicks, they want you to lower the score by 1. And we'll just hop right into it. So the first part of it is game.onInput. And so that gets the input of the click. So when you click, that's the first event, and the event always goes first, at least in this code and the way it's written. And then the handler we're going to use is, instead of defeat other like up here, we're going to be using handler.addScore. Make sure you capitalize the S and make sure you have the -1. -1, sorry. So what this line does again is when the computer senses that you've clicked anywhere, it doesn't have to be in any particular location, but when you click on the game, your score goes down by 1. And then we just got one more line of code to write. And this line is we're gonna be using the handler add score again, but we're gonna be using a different event and a different object, and we're gonna be using game.setActionFor instead of game.onInput. So game.setActionFor is what we start with. And so the object that we're setting the action for is just like this line right here. We're using the robot walker. And then the next step is on event defeat. So right here, on event exit, so this line of code basically states that whenever the robot walks off screen, whether that's up, down, left, or right, they will just destroy them. So it doesn't affect the performance of the game, and the robots don't return to the game. So instead of using exit though, we're going to be using defeat. And as we wrote above, that they get defeated. They get defeated when you click on them. So when the robot walker gets defeated, we want the handler to do add score instead of destroy, and we're going to add 20. Okay, so that line looks good. Oh, I forgot to make sure with every string you use, put the quotation marks. So now that line is good, and it looks like our code is done. These just set the goal and the text. So now we'll close that, and we'll hit play, and the goal is to get a score of 20. So as you see, when I click on the robot and defeat the robot, I get 20 points, and every time I click, I lose a point. So there I lose a point, and there I lose a point. And I'm not getting the 20 points because I'm not clicking on a robot. But when I click on the robot, add 20, add 20, add 20, and one more. And I should win the game because I got a score above 100. So that's that for that game, and you just hit continue, and on to level 7. 7, it's right here. It's titled Tough Collector, and just as always, hit play and then wait for it to load. This level is more of a review. I don't think we learn anything new. It just kind of goes over and sums up what we learned. So just hit start level. We'll hop right into it. As always, I'll kind of begin by explaining some of the code that's already written. These lines right here just spawn the floor, the borders, and the decorations. And as always, feel free to customize your game by changing these strings to forest, mountain, or desert. Over here, these lines just spawn the generators for the robots and set their properties. And then this line down here sets the properties of the robo-bombs. This line right here creates your hero. For this level, it's the peasant. As you can see right here, we haven't seen them yet. And then it also sets the properties for the peasants and spawns the gold coins and the potions. So we'll go down to the first line of code you actually have to write. And here it says, set the peasant's max health property to at least 5,000. And so that's pretty simple. As always, just use the game.set property for. So game.set property for, and feel free to autocomplete it, or you can type it out. But we don't want to work with the robobomb, so you want to delete the robobomb and type peasant. And you're not changing its speed, you're changing the max health, and at least 5,000. I'll go 10,000 because I want to make the game easy for myself, but feel free to do whatever you want. And then now we only have one more line of code to write. So I'll just explain this line real quick. That line basically is meant to, instead of one click on a robot destroys it, you're gonna have to click twice. So each click does 100 damage, and as this comment says, a robobomb has 200 health points. And then this line of code says when a peasant collects a coin, it will add 50 points to your score right here. Oh, and I just realized that I put 1,000 here instead of 10,000, so I'll just update that real fast. And you see it updates right here in that corner. So then the last line of code is we want to add 100 points when a robot is defeated. So instead of doing a game.set property for, we want to use game.set action for. So game.set action for. So in the first string, we're going to have robo bomb, because it's when the robo bomb gets destroyed. And then the second string is not collected, but defeated. And it's defeat. And then handler, it's the same thing, handler dot adds, I keep getting a typo there, add score, and you want to put 100 points. So that line basically says when you defeat a robobomb, it adds 100 points to your total. Okay, so this blue text box is saying we finished and we can play. So the goal is just to survive and get 1,500 points. So I'll just hit play. First, I'll move my camera over here and hit play. It's a bit laggy, but okay. One sec. So as you see, I had to click twice for it to destroy it. I'm going to click this robot once, and you see it did not get destroyed, and then I'll click it twice, and it gets destroyed. So right now I have a score of 500, and I just need to wait till I get 1,500. Well, anyways, you don't need to see me finish the game. You guys can do it yourself. For some reason, this is going a bit slow. but I'll come back when I finish the level. Okay, so it just took a minute, and I got the 1,500 points. I had to wait for my peasant to collect all the coins and to wait for robots to spawn so I could destroy them. But I got the 1,500 points. I completed the level, and that's it with level 7. You just hit continue, and we'll hop right into level 8. Go ahead and open level 8, which is right here, and it's called Paradigm Shift. So this level goes over handlers again and goes over a couple of events we haven't done yet. It starts off with talking about a user input on the keyboard instead of clicking. We're going to be writing code for what happens when we press the letter A. It also uses the event collide and the event exit. So we'll just hop right into it. So it looks like we have 3 lines of code to write, but as always, I'll just start at the top and explain some of the code that's already written. So these 2 lines just spawn the floor and the top borders. Feel free to change this to whatever you want. I'll go ahead and change it to desert. And then these just spawn the platforms. There's 7 platforms. Although it only looks like there's 4. These are actually 2 different platforms. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And these are the coordinates for them. Here these spawn the 4 gold coins, and there are 4 coins right here. And this sets the gravity. So as this comment says, the first number is for the pole left and right, and leave that at 0 for this level, because we don't want to be moved left or right without us pressing the keyboard. And the second number goes over the up and down gravity, which is 30 right now, and I recommend keeping it like that. So this line of code right here sets the property for the platforms, and what it basically does is makes it so you don't go through the platforms, and it cancels out the gravity when you're on the platform. Right here, this spawns in the radar at the coordinates 10, 18, and sets the speed for it right down here. Here, this line basically says when you press the space bar, you're going to jump, and here it says when you press D, you're going to move to the right. And now that we can move up and to the right, we got to write code for how we move to the left. So it's going to be very similar to list line, but instead of D, we're going to be using on input A. And instead of the handler move right, we're going to, of course, use handler move left. So go over here and do find move left, which is right here. And it's extremely similar to this. And we're pretty much going to be writing this exact line right here, but instead of knight, we want to move the raider, because that's the hero we're using. So game dot, you can use on input or on key. I'm just going to go ahead and use on input. And then the handler we're going to use is handler dot move left, and then put raider in parentheses or in quotation marks, and make sure you put 2 parentheses, because one is open right here, one is open right here, so you need 2 to close it. And then right here, next we want to use the on event collide, and when the raider collides with something, logically it should stop. So we're going to be using so we're not going to be using on input, because it's not trying to get an input from the user's keyboard or mouse. We're going to be using set action for. We're going to write game dot set action for. And then we can kind of copy this the way they do it here, but instead of Munchkin, of course, we're using the raider as a hero. So we're going to setting the action for the raider. And then instead of spawn, we want him to, instead of at spawn, we're going to do when he collides. So the string collide, as always, make sure you have your quotation marks. And the handler we're going to be used is handler dot stop. And then just put those 2 parentheses. You don't need to write raider there, because raider's already written over here. So just right there. And then as you see, we completed that. So we know that line of code is good. So now moving on to the last line of code we're writing. That is when you exit the screen, they want you to be defeated. So again, we're going to use game.set action for. And again, we're using the hero raider. So it's raider. And instead of collide, we're using exit. and then we're going to be using the handler dot defeat instead of stop. So that right there, we have the 3 lines of code, and it says well done. So we know our code works. So I can just kind of go over the last remaining code. So this sets the goal of surviving for the raider, and it adds a collection goal. And then these are just the directions. So I'll exit that and move my camera to the right, and we'll play the game. So use W and A to move around and space to jump. And we want to collect all 4 coins without exiting the screen. And you can exit on the sides or by falling down. So here we got the 3rd coin, and there's the 4th, and the game should end right now. So that's level 8, and see you in level 9. Work on level 9, which is the last level you're going to do before you make your own game. So click on this level right here, and it's titled Phase Shift. And for this level, we're just going to be working on the update event, which allows you to continuously run the method throughout your game instead of waiting for an event to happen. So it's start level, and it looks like there's only 1 line of code for us to write, and it's for updating. And right here they use it up here, and this is for moving the desert platforms to the left. So we're going to be writing similar things, but a very similar thing, but instead of moving the platforms to the left, we're going to be moving the gold coins to the right. So let's move up here, and I can just start writing the code. So we're going to be using game set action for, just like it is up here. So game.set action for, and then open the parentheses. And then, but instead of using desert platform, we're going to be using gold coin. And we're still going to be using update, the update event. And instead of using the handler move left, we're going to be using the handler move right. So now we know our line of code is good, and we can just hop right into the game. I'm just looking. It doesn't seem like any of these code I need to explain. I've explained it quite a bit in previous levels, and it's just more of the same thing. So I'll hit play, and the goal of the game is to collect 10 gold coins before dying. Let me move my. Whoops, I died right there. I didn't move my camera. So now I'll go in and win the game, hopefully. So I have a feeling this is going to take a while, so I'll just come back when I've collected all 10 coins. Now we finished the 9th level, and so we'll just hit continue. And that's it for the 9 levels. All right, so now that we finished the 9 levels, you guys know everything you guys need to know to make your own game. So just go ahead and go into that last level and make your own game. Make it as complicated as you want, make it as hard as you want, and play it yourself. There's also some fun things. You can join a clan down here. You can buy items with diamonds you collect in game. There's a ton of things you can use on this game called Code Combat, and I encourage you to make the best game you possibly can. Use any heroes you want. Use any type of game. The levels before kind of showed you a couple ones you can make. You can make those moving platforms. You can make like a maze type game. You could really make anything. The possibilities are endless. So have fun with that, and enjoy your hour of code, guys.